Me too.
Yes.
All right. So with that, again, thanks so much for Carter volunteering tonight. As you know, we had switched this around a couple of times, and it's
Oops, we glitched.
I don't hear you.
so the floor. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Sorry. I said, yeah, I hand over the mic to Carter. And again, thank you for giving us this presentation tonight.
Yeah, sure. No problem. Okay, so let me see if I can.
You should be able to screen share. I told it to let you.
I am. Oh, interesting. Interesting.
It's on that green.
Usually helps if you open whatever it is you want to share first, and then when you go to share it, it'll come up in the select. They'll give you a selection of things to pick from to share, and that will show up if it's open already. If that makes sense.
Yes. Hang on. I have to give my Mac. All right. I may have to drop and come back. Give me a second.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Okay.
Right.
We can feel sorry for all the kids that have to go to school this way.
Yes.
Oh,
And all the parents that have to get them through school this way.
Yeah, seriously.
Especially them.
Oh. I can't even imagine having to have done my kids this for a year on Zoom.
Should I let him? Should I let him back in?
Sure.
Know your boss.
All right. Let's see if we can get this launched now.
Can Mary come out and play?
She can. She's here.
We see her way back there.
She in timeout?
Right.
I'm having cocktails and dinner.
Oh, I just went off. How come?
Oh, Carter's screen.
Yeah, Carter's sharing his screen.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
So go
Ah, okay.
All right.
Got it.
You see that okay?
Yep.
Yep.
All right. So this is a brief introduction to color theory. And when I say brief, I mean brief. Typically a color theory course will take somewhere between 1 to 2 semesters in college or high school. So we're just going to touch on things. At the end, you guys can ask some questions and we'll just cruise through this. So what is color theory? Color theory is essentially some rules and some guidelines around color. We use color theory with so many different industries or in the world. We've got fashion, we've got art, we've got all sorts of different designs. And color theory is a fundamental. It's something that you need to know in order to be able to please your clients. Why do we care? Color theory is one of those things that effectively provides a pleasing aesthetic when you walk into a room, when you select an outfit, or when you're creating a work of art. This is something that is fundamental to people who are artistically inclined. It's taught in school. It's one of those things that matters, and that's why we care about this. So color, if you know, is essentially the different elements of light. So in this particular graphic, what you see is white light from the sun essentially passes through a prism and is broken down into its various wavelengths. And this basically is all of the colors that we see. And when we talk about how we see things, we're talking about how these wavelengths basically reflect off of the items that are around us. So when we see somebody who is wearing a red hat, that hat, it basically has all of the colors that are absorbed, and what we see is the reflected light from that hat in the red wavelength. And this is an important part of how we see color and what that means to create works of art, or how you design your home in choosing colors and their complements. So basically, we use the color wheel, which was first created by Sir Isaac Newton in 1666. The idea was to produce a relationship with that wheel that would allow people to understand the different parts of the color that we see through light. So the color wheel is split into different halves, and we basically use this color wheel to decide how we are going to use color in everything from clothing to painting to whatever. Excuse me? Automobiles. And I'm sure that's for Andreas. So the color wheel is broken down into primary, secondary, and tertiary colors. And effectively, the way that this works is that the primary colors that you see are blue, yellow, and red. And these colors cannot be created by other colors. Blue, yellow, and red being primary are the basics. They're the three fundamental colors that effectively create all of the other colors that you see. Green, orange, and purple, or violet, basically is a combination of the colors that you see when you mix the primaries. If you take yellow and red and mix the two together, you get orange, and that's why this is a secondary color. Tertiary colors are a combination of the primaries and secondaries mixed together. And this is how we break down the color wheel and how we see the color in that wheel. This then can basically be split in half to show both the warm and the cool colors that are represented in the color wheel. Warm colors are those things that you think of when you're thinking about a summer day. If you're going to wear a summer dress, perhaps your summer dress is in a nice warm yellow or an orange, and it matches the lovely warm horizon. If you want to think of cool colors, what we see around here are the blues and the greens, and sometimes occasionally during kind of the late sunset where everything is cool, we get into our sort of red and purples on the horizon. And these are cool colors. These warm and cool colors allow us to describe all sorts of different things out in the world. If you look at a car and it's this just hot red car, well, it's described as a hot red car because you've got this amazing car that Andreas has built from nothing, and it's this amazing red color, so it's warm and it's hot. And these are how you use these colors. Each color that you see is basically represented in a couple of fundamental qualities. You have your hue, which is the color itself. So you look at a color and you say, that is blue, that is the hue. When we look at that color and we talk about its saturation, we're talking about the saturation, the level of intensity of that particular color. Colors like a light blue versus a dark blue talk about things that are, intensity and effectively are similar to the value of that color. You'll note here in the slide that it says the value is lightness or darkness, also represented as a high or a low key. This basically, in the next slide, shows you what that means in terms of having colors represented in terms of their value scale. If you have something that is light in value, it is actually lighter. It's something that you visually see as being a lighter color as opposed to something that's in dark. A dark color basically registers in a key as a low key as opposed to a high key. And again, this set of graphics here hopefully explains kind of how those things kind of coexist with each other. This is very important. The tints, tones, and shades, one of my favorite parts of color theory. If you ever go into a paint store and you're getting a gallon of paint to paint your wall, and the guy who is basically mixing your paint says, okay, so what color shade do you want here? And he's basically mixing it with white. You can correct him by saying, I'm sorry, that's not a shade, it's actually a tint. So, you know, this is for, you know, fun color theory oriented people who want to mess with the guy who's doing the paint mixing.
Which is very useful at Rosenberg.
Right, exactly. So tints, tones, and shades are mixtures of white, gray, or black. Simply, if you take a color and you mix it with white, you create a tint. If you take a color and you mix it with gray, you produce a tone. And similarly, if you mix black with a color, you get a shade. So when people are talking about things like tints, tones, and shades, you know that they're talking about how much they're mixing white, gray, or black. Tones can be reached by mixing a combination of both white and black. Effectively, you're getting that gray in there anyway. But tints, tones, and shades are fun because you can take any color and you can effectively add another element of white or gray or black and produce something that is uniquely different than the color that you started with. So something that is really saturated, like Andreas's red car. If we were to add white to it, we could get this nice light sort of pinkish tint, which probably wouldn't make Andreas very happy, but you'd have a nice lighter color. Moving on. So when we talk about colors and how we use them, we have these well-known schemes. We have complementary, we have split complementary, triadic or tetradic, we have monochromatic and analogous. And these are schemes that are basically produced out of the color wheel. We look at the color wheel and we decide what colors we use to produce these color schemes. Color schemes are really important because they allow us to basically produce visually appealing artwork. In this particular slide, what we're looking at is the complementary color scheme. This painting is called Orange Leafy Sea Dragon. This is something that I painted years ago, and it uses a complementary palette. Effectively, the two colors that I'm working with to produce this work of art is blue and orange, and they are complementary. And I know that if I have a blue background and I use an orange foreground, I'm going to get that object in the foreground to pop because it's complementary. This is true for a lot of things that you see in the world. Advertising will use this color scheme to basically put, for example, a red background and then basically pop something that's green in front of it because the complement to red is green. And so we see these color schemes used everywhere, in TV commercials, in magazines, in artwork, in the way that people dress. It's one of those things that is just a well-known way to make things look visually attractive and appealing. So this is the complementary. The split complementary essentially takes that two colors and then it basically splits one of them to select the colors on either side. So if you've got, in this particular slide, if you've got blue, well, the opposite of that is going to be orange, but you split the orange so that you're using more of this yellow orange and this red orange. And so when you use those together, it causes things to be more in harmony, and it creates a visually stunning appearance. This particular painting, called The Imposter, because we've got a different type of fish trying to become a clownfish, was painted a couple years ago, and I used a split complement in order to produce this sort of harmony between the deep sea and the clownfish that are in the foreground. Next scheme. In this particular color scheme, we're using the triadic color scheme that essentially is 3 different points on the color wheel. And in this, we've got our sort of our green, our orange, and our purples in order to create this. Now, something to note in artwork is that these color schemes are not absolute. One of the things that you'll do is you'll take a purple and then you may add a little bit of white or a little bit of black in order to change its either its tint, its shade, or its tone, so that it makes the artwork work perfectly for what your objective is. So even though you may actually have a color scheme, it doesn't mean that you have to basically be super rigid in that. It's just you're using those base three to produce the artwork that you want. Other places that you'll see something like a triadic color will be in commercials. A lot of times what they'll do is they'll use a commercial base color of, in this case, let's say purple, and then what they'll do is they'll accent with these sort of blue and greens. And so what you'll see is this amazing commercial that is like visual candy. It's got all this really beautiful color in it. And you may not know why it looks beautiful, but it looks beautiful because they've used these color schemes. In the next one, we've got our tetradic color scheme, which is essentially two sets of complementary pairs. I'm not sure if this slide is showing quite right, but basically, if you have blue and orange, and you select another complement, you can effectively make a painting that basically uses two sets of complementary colors. In this particular painting that I painted for Mary's father, what I decided to use is this tetradic combination in this picture to produce something that was visually appealing. This is one of those things that was just sort of fun and used a lot of different color schemes, or this one color scheme. Lastly, we've got our monochromatic. Monochromatic paintings, monochromatic images are essentially one color that basically goes from the full range of value from black to white. So as we've added a little bit of white with blue, and we basically merged across all the way up to white, we get this monochromatic. It's a single color. It doesn't include any other colors. It's just basically adding white or black to it. Monochromatic can be really quite amazing. There are monochromatic photographs that are taken of various places, like, for example, Paris. I've seen photographs of the Eiffel Tower where they've created a monochromatic image of that, and it's really quite stunning. You get more of the architectural elements of it and not so much color. So it gives itself a much more interesting, almost, thank you, more of a depth to the image itself. So monochromatic images can be really, really fun. And last is the analogous color scheme. Analogous colors are the ones that are right next to each other. So you pick a color, and you pick a color on either side of that chosen color, and those become analogous. Excuse me. In this particular image, I created an analogous color schemed painting called Mermaid's Backyard. And it's basically these blues and greens, and there's a silhouette of a mermaid in the background. The objective of analogous color is creating harmony in your painting or in your outfit. For example, if Jenny was going to go out to a party tonight and she wanted to wear something that was, maybe a little red, orange, and yellow orange, those would all be analogous, and she'd be warm and fun and everybody would love it. That's the analogous color scheme. Anyway, excuse me. So the other aspect of color theory is the color producing moods. In this particular graphic, what we have is all the colors of the color wheel with the addition of magenta, brown, black, gray, and white. Magenta doesn't really fall into this exactly, but we have both a positive and negative representations of color. This is really important. If you're creating a message and you're creating this big sign that you're going to carry around and you're going to protest, some of the things that you might want to do is think about the colors that you're going to use, because you can actually use those colors either to go out and protest something using these colors in a negative context, or you can use them in a positive. So if you're out there doing your Black Lives Matter poster, perhaps you use a number of colors together that basically give the message in a stronger way, because those colors lend themselves to that. So color and mood is a huge area. I would encourage you, if you're interested, to go out and look at those psychology-based websites that basically look at color and essentially give people those different moods based on the color that they've been using. Where are we here? Okay, so this is coming up on the end here. More information, you can actually go to any of these sites. This slide deck will become available for you to take a look at. There's a lot of really cool stuff on the Wikipedia. The Interaction Design Foundation is a great website for just color theory in general. There's a lot of information there. The Design Wizard, good site for a lot of really good design tips. Color Psychology. Again, if you're interested in understanding more about using color to essentially motivate people to feel certain ways, this is a good site. And then finally, the art therapy link here on the bottom. This one is really great for giving you ideas about how to produce a therapeutic environment using color. And that is all I have for you this evening. This was a very brief look at color theory. We could go into any one of those slides into amazing depth. But hopefully you found this useful, and if you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Carter. Thanks so much. Fascinating and I think fantastic talk. In fact, I would say if we can twist your arm once again, it would be great if we could even maybe have you back, if there's a season 2. To go in depth into for some of these topics, especially, I mean, I would be very interested in learning more about the psychology of color and this topic. You know, I think that might
it's a big one,
Yeah.
super big, yeah.
Consider if the vote is positive, consider yourself booked for season 2.
Right. Okay.
Hello? You are really mastering the theory of color. Congratulations. I was working in color in my life, but on the aspect of color rendering depending on the light.
Color rendering in terms of light?
Yes.
Yeah, well, so light basically affects the color that you visually see, right? I mean, the more light that you have, the more intensity of color that you can have. If you're using light to basically produce moods by affecting the color, you can really do things to make people feel calm or make people feel, you know, anxious. You can make things look bigger. You can make things look smaller. Light and color together are huge, really big area.
Huge stuff, because we were trying to do some to hide information in colored image. And for example, doing some steganography, and depending on the temperature of the light, you get huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
But congratulations again. That was a pleasure to hear this talk.
Oh, thank you.
Carter, pastel colors are basically nearly a tint then, what you're saying.
So, you know, a lot of times pastels are actually, they're not so pastels are not intense in terms of pure color. If you look at something like the primary colors in the color wheel, you've got blue, yellow, and red. Those are your primaries. And when you look at those next to like a lot of the pastel works, pastels are usually a tint of whatever you find. There's like a bit of white that's added to these pastels. They're much lighter. They give a much more, for lack of a better word, sort of this effervescent sort of feel to them. It's light. They're bright. They have, you know, a high key. They're a pleasure to look at, but they usually don't provide, in terms of these pastels, they don't provide a lot of negative intensity, if you will.
Is the octopus picture, would you consider that one a pastel painting?
No,
Yeah.
no way. The octopus is way too dark. Yeah.
Carter, can you show us, I've looked at your website. Can you show us some of your other works tonight, since we have you here?
I'm sorry, what?
Take us for a spin around the website,
Yeah.
like your art gallery.
Okay. Give me a moment here. Let me see what I can do. Wow. What do I want? All right. I don't know if this is going to work. Let's take a look here. Give me a moment.
If not, I can share my screen and just go through your Facebook page.
No, I've got an Instagram thing that I can do. It's probably better because it's more recent. Okay.
There you go.
Can you see this okay? Is this
Yeah, yeah.
I need to get this out of my way.
That's the famous, that's the famous raven, yeah.
Oh God. Come here. Come back. There we go. Okay, so this is the Cerulean Studio art. This is the website, the Instagram account that I have. My art studio is called Cerulean Studio. I produce a vast amount of work out of that, and I put it up here. So this was the last thing that I did. This is the Raven. It's called Dark Oracle. It effectively is a work of art that I did on a 16 by 20, 140 pound cold press watercolor paper. And that may mean something, that may not. It has 3 gold leaf feathers. So these guys that are down in here, this is all gold leaf that's pressed for the feathers. And in this particular painting, what you'll note is the background is purple. And the background is purple, and the moon, or the moon here, and the feathers are yellow. And there's a reason that that's the way it is because, again, I'm using complementary colors in this particular painting. I really wanted this painting to pop. And I guess in detail, I'm looking to basically make that raven pop against that moon, that yellow moon. And I want those 3 feathers to pop. So by creating a purple background with a little bit of, like, there's a little hint of black in there as well, this allowed this raven to sort of come forward. It's the term is pop. It pops from the background. And that's essentially what I was looking for there. I like complementary colors because they're pretty easy to work with. I also will do split complements, which also work really well. More recently, I actually did a painting off of a video that I saw. This is essentially 3 mushrooms releasing spores. This is on a black watercolor paper. This is actually a lot more impressive in person. The paint that I used is a combination of iridescent, interference, and pearlescent watercolor. So they're very reactive to light. When this painting gets moved around, it shines in different ways. This painting's, not very big. I think, what did I say? Yeah, it's a 12 by 9, so it's a fairly small painting. Jenny, is there something that you wanted to look at in particular?
Octopus.
Looking better.
This one? Okay, and this one I'm going for effectively saturation in the tentacles. This one basically is just this really super bright red. I'm not using color theory as much in this one as I'm using the saturation of the red to basically kind of mute the background. And so it's, 3 tentacles of an octopus. Andreas, was there another one that you were looking at specifically? I've got a ton of stuff here and it could take us all night. This is a painting that I did for Mary. Originally, this painting was going to be completely different. It was going to be something else. The background was painted for, it was painted for an underwater scene that I had planned, and then Mary told me that it would be flowers. So,
Hold the white card, huh?
yeah, exactly right. Yeah, that's right. So that got
What is the
pulled.
white card, Mary?
Yep. So I've only got it once.
This actually was work. This is just all ink, and this isn't the full thing, but basically this got painted for Ted and Connie Gilbert. They wanted something to represent their promontory, and they wanted something that basically was representative of the area that they live in. So this is kind of what they see from their deck. And yeah, and this got completely colored. It's not pushed to Instagram, but it's here. This is one of my favorite ones. It's a really big painting. It's pretty cool. This is a bioluminescence in motion. It's a big blue wave. Again, this is done in interference, pearlescent, and iridescent colors. This picture does not do it justice because you can't see it actually glows. There's a lot of interaction that I'm working with here with light. So I'm counting on this painting to basically react with the various the light in the room. As the light changes, the wave changes. And I have others here as well that are the same. I've been working on a series of flamenco dancers, and this is just one of several. This one's called Luna Pasada, and this is, again, I've been really enjoying my black watercolor paper, so I've been playing around with using the light as opposed to the dark. Typically in painting, the way that you do it is you basically paint from dark to light when you're using oil or acrylic. When you're using watercolor, it's the complete opposite of that. You preserve the light and you paint towards dark. And so this is a fun change for me since I mostly do watercolors. I have whales and jellyfish. There are more flamenco dancers. This one was really fun. What I'm doing in this particular painting is I'm only painting what you can see in the light. So basically the arms, the face, all of that, but her hair and her body in here, it's just black. I've not painted anything there. I just let the paper basically fill in that space. And the objective is to get the viewer to effectively fill that in with their mind.
Brain does that.
I have a few horses. This is a yellow horse. I did this year pelican. This is a completely different style of painting. This includes watercolor and ink. And the idea is to essentially put some ink down on the watercolor paper first, and then effectively sort of drop or throw in the watercolor and then render out all the details after that. So you get this sort of loose, splashy effect with some very fine details on top. What else we got? I've got sea turtles. I have a few nudes that I've done. This series of paintings that are in here, these were jellyfish people. I decided to play a little bit with that. Some of these I thought were pretty successful, some maybe not as much. I do sort of Polynesian design. You'll see a few of these in here as well. This is a design that I made in Photoshop, and it's all digital. And so I can scale this up or down with anything. I can put it on anything that I want, and it can be huge or it can be really small. So it's a nice thing to have. This is a School of Hammerheads. This is a second painting that I did of the style. I like sharks. They're a favorite subject of mine. Actually, almost all marine life is this favorite subject of mine. And so I did a School of Hammerheads before, which got a lot of positive feedback. And I decided to do a different one. This is a different palette. I'm using greens and yellows essentially to create the background. And the other one that I did was blues and purples, which you'll see it's farther down in here. More designs. This is the Dead Sea. I decided to do skeletons of the fish and the mermaids. Some people really like this. Some people don't. It's okay. Yeah. Then let's see what else we got here. The map. All right. This was the first map that I did. Well, actually, this is the third attempt on this map that I finally got. This is our area. This is where we live. I have a bunch of like prints that I made of this for people, and it's a pretty cool map. It's you know, kind of representative of where we live. It took 3 tries to get that right. My first 2 were highly unsuccessful. And we're getting into some other stuff. This particular painting right here is one of Mary's favorites. It is also one of Connie Gilbert's favorites. So I'm not too sure how it's going to work out between those 2, but you know, it's pretty small. It's fun, you know. What do we got else? This particular painting's huge. It's this is a triptych. It's 3 sheets of watercolor paper, and when I say sheets, each sheet is 22 by 30. So after this gets framed, this whole thing is going to exceed probably, I would say 6, maybe even 7 feet in width. I mean, it will be huge. But excuse me, when I created this, my idea was to have this behind like a big desk or something like that, in an office space maybe. What else? Excuse me. Okay. Excuse me. This particular item, I collaborated with a friend of mine who is a poet. She likes to write poetry, and so what I did is I effectively created the work around her poetry. And so if you notice, this has a couple of things in it that are notable for our color theory conversation. One is that if you look at what's basically in the foreground, you're going to notice that things are basically in the warm half of the color wheel. And then in the back half, what you notice is things in the cool aspects of the color wheel. I'm using this basically to show the difference between the warm sand and the cool water behind it. And what I've done is I've taken her poetry and put it on top. And I have a couple of these that I did with my friend Suzanne. And some of them I think came out really good. They were really fun. This is one of my favorite turtles. I like this one because the background is just amazing. There's so much good stuff that happened in that one. There are, this is my Black Beach horse. This was the first time that I actually painted a horse in detail. And this is one of my favorites. It was one of those paintings that you thought, I don't know if this is gonna work. And it came out so much better than I thought. And we actually have it hanging in our house here. What else? Oh, here's the other, this is the other hammerhead. And you notice that this one is purple and blues in the background instead of the greens and yellows is the other one. And so again, the idea of the blues and purples and this was to create that sort of like cool water that the hammerheads are swimming through. This goes on for a while. This is different technique just to show you. I was teaching a class in watercolor, and what I decided to do was create a drip painting, and I used a Renaissance color triad, and that's applicable to what we were talking about this evening. The Renaissance triad really includes these different colors out of the color wheel that sort of complement each other. And in fact, even when they blend together, they produce this harmony on the page, and it's really fun. This is not a great photo of that particular painting. I don't think that this scans very well, but the colors are really quite stunning. What else? Oh, here's another. This is another one of the collaboration that I did with my friend Suzanne. This painting essentially is completely derived from the poem. So I read the poem and essentially painted towards that direction. So since this starts off with "And dolphins led us to light," the objective was to create a light source and have the dolphin silhouettes moving in that direction. And so that was really how this came about. This painting also, fairly large, 22 by 22. We have this framed, and it's beautiful. It has so much great color in it. What else?
I like those trees. I like that forest.
This one?
Yes.
This is called the kelp forest. I have, I still have prints of this one. This one did really well. In fact, Eric actually has a print of this in his house.
I might need one of those.
Well, I have one when you're ready. These are just a remarkably fun painting because effectively what I'm trying to do is create, I don't know if anybody else is a scuba diver, but if you're a scuba diver and you go down to the bottom and you look up, it's almost always sort of a magical experience. The colors of kelp and just the way that they sort of like rise up to the surface is quite beautiful. And so this is what I've tried to create here in this particular painting. This one here, just a combination of this Pacific Northwest animals. We've got our, you know, our bald eagles and our orca. This is what my desk looks like sometimes. It's kind of a mess.
It's neater than mine.
Right.
I'm right now. It's like.
I'll show you this one. So this just happened by accident. And just to let you know, I created this huge background of color. I just threw it down on this paper. I had absolutely no clue what I was making, none whatsoever at all. I'm definitely not a flower guy. I don't really know what flowers look like. I assume that they have petals and that's about it. I created this and I call it the alien's garden. I sent this picture out My mom says, "Oh my God, it looks like they're running." And so since then, I can't really get that out of my head.
Flowers are running away from you.
They are.
Yeah.
They know you don't like flowers. They're fleeing you.
Even the ones you make.
Exactly. This was a painting that I did to try to see if I could integrate two different horses,
Yeah.
seahorse and a horse. So this is seahorse horse, and as soon as I finished this one, it sold. I was stunned. Sometimes things sell faster than you can possibly imagine. Like, and people like things that you don't like. It's the weirdest thing ever. Yeah.
You sell these online or through a gallery?
Yeah, I actually had a guy from Germany today actually ask about 3 different paintings that I have, and so I sent him the information, so he may actually get 3 of the paintings that I did most recently.
Yeah, watch out for those guys from Germany, though.
Yeah, really.
I know. Yeah.
Absolutely right.
A couple of puffins. Again, you know, I don't do a lot of birds, but people tend to like puffins. I think they're cute. These are Mary's jellies. Mary took a photograph of jellies while we were in the Monterey Aquarium, not Monterey, Seattle Aquarium, and so I painted this for her. And that too is also hanging on our wall. And then I guess we're getting to the end here. This is one of the fish that we saw in the Maldives. I kind of liked it. This is actually hanging in one of our bathrooms. It's a super fun painting, really colorful, great. And then this last guy here, this is a painting of essentially migration. The stuff that we see while we're out on our decks, the whales going, you know, they go north, then they go south, and this is part of that. And this also is framed and sitting in our house. There's a lot of this stuff that's framed and sitting in our house. So
It's not fair to paint the things and then not let other people have them, Carter.
well, you know, all this stuff is for sale, so you know. But yeah, I have a lot of stuff here. You know, the Instagram link was on that slide deck. You know, please feel free to like come through here and poke around and make comments. And you know, in some cases, if you're looking for, like Jenny, if you're looking for a print of the kelp forest, I've got one. So we're good.
Hey, we're going to talk.
All right, cool. I like it. Does anybody have any other questions about this color theory, artwork, anything in particular?
No.
No.
All right, stop there.
Thank
How
you.
many colors
Jerry
are
just
there?
joined too. Jerry,
How many colors are there?
Is-
Well, in the color wheel,
Invisible, isn't it?
well, there's like infinite number of colors, right? But in the color wheel, there's only 12. You've got 3 primary, 3 secondary, and 6 tertiary. And so,
But the human eye is now developing the additional color.
well, Mary thinks we can see more colors. I don't
The human
necessarily
eye is
agree with that.
developing the capability of seeing more colors, more neon and more light.
In a rainbow, do you see the primary colors plus the tinted ones, or the combinations, or?
Right. It's a good question. I kind of see where you're going. So if you take a prism and you basically pass white light through, that basically effectively renders all the colors that we can see. There's more than what we can visually see, but color theory really only applies to what we can visualize, because if you can't see it, it doesn't really matter. You know, we can't paint something that color. So what we see broken down into the various wavelengths is effectively all of that light passed through from sort of that red, yellow, orange, purple, blue, violet. All of those are the colors that we see in that color wheel. Nothing more, nothing less. Excuse me. And if you see the rainbow, let's say, against something like in the background that's gray, that will basically lend itself to some of the tones that you may see in the background. Does that make sense, Bill?
Yeah, right, yes, yeah, I would think so, yeah, the tones and the hues and whatever.
Yeah, effectively, the more light that you have, the brighter those colors look. So if we're thinking about, if we're mixing a bucket of paint and we've got something that is saturated, pure blue, as we add white, it gets lighter, we get this tint. If we're adding black and white, we're effectively making this tone. And if we go and we just add black to that purely saturated blue, we're going to create this shade. Well, in the world of, pictures and visualizing what you see out on the horizon, if you've got a really bright day and you've got a rainbow out there, that blue might seem lighter in color because you've actually got more light in the atmosphere. If you've got gray behind it, you're going to lend itself, or it will lend itself more towards that tone. And the darker it becomes, the closer we get towards that black, the more likely we're dealing with that shade. So it's all about the light and its relative intensity to the colors that we see that gives you that sort of intensity of what that color may be. Hopefully that's more clear.
Thank you.
Yeah. The color theory is, like I said, it's this huge thing. It covers so much. I love when people ask color theory questions. To me, it's a passion because I like to paint. When I look at stuff that Mary does, it's about how do I take a tablecloth that is a particular color and add an item on top that's going to look fabulous, right? Well, if you've got a blue tablecloth and you add something that maybe is white but has a little bit of orange on it, all of a sudden it looks really fantastic because the blue and the orange are complementary. They make this whole thing pop. And again, as you watch commercials, as you look in magazines and stuff like that, anybody that's in design, anybody that's doing any sort of videography, any of that kind of stuff will really know their color theory, and they'll use that to draw your eye towards whatever it is that they're trying to sell you, what they want you to witness. It's a fundamental element of getting people's attention and making them feel a certain way. And that's why I love color. There's so much that you can do with it.
If I can interject just for a second, because I love this.
Because you always do, yeah.
The fast food industry uses color theory to invoke feelings of happiness and anxiousness, and let's get in and let's be happy and let's get our food and let's leave and not sit around too long because these colors are exciting and we can't sit here for too long. There's certain industries that focus on color theory to bring out, invoke certain emotions to benefit their business model. Fast food industries, hospitals, healthcare units. Do we want people to be excited when they're actually calm, or do we want to calm them down when they're overly excited because there's been an emergency? It's fascinating.
Yes, Carrie.
And this all gets into the psychology of color, which is a huge box that we may not want to open tonight.
Right.
Yeah. When you walk into the hospital, you have some calming colors rather than something.
Absolutely.
It hits you in the eye. Right.
Yeah. I'm the only one wearing the power color tonight. He's got his bright red shirt on.
Right.
Can you reproduce shiny colors in your art form? Say, we've all seen these shiny red cars, deep red cars, and they're so shiny and that sort of thing. Can you like the shoe that you like, Mary? That painting. Could you make that shoe shiny red?
So the answer to that is yes. There's a number of ways to go about that. It is maybe not necessarily directly related to the colors. So, thanks, Andreas. Usually you make things look shiny in a painting by effectively creating that shiny look when you're painting it. Like you're you're rendering it with highlights and stuff like that that make it look shiny. But if you wanted to do something that actually gave the painting as a whole kind of a shiny look to it, you can actually cover the whole painting in something that reflects light that makes it look shiny. You can also do things like using light reflective paints. So iridescent, pearlescent, interference colors effectively take light and reflect it back. And that makes things that are very shiny. I have some amazing paintings on black because the black's just truly fantastic for this. The color bounces back, and depending upon where you are in the room with that color, it's bouncing back different colors to you. It's really fun. It's really neat. In fact, at some point, Bill, maybe I can bring down something that you can take a look at and really get a feel for that, because it's really fun stuff.
That's great. Thank you. I didn't mean to monopolize.
Not at all.
I have one more question though.
Sure.
A colorblind person.
Oh yeah.
Would they see, and Andreas, you may join in too, do they see different shades? Do they see black and white like we would see a black and white movie, okay? Is that what they see, or is there color in there somehow?
There is, anybody who is truly colorblind, there's no color. It's essentially a black and white movie wherever they go.
It is.
Or they can see it in a different color. I have a friend that he doesn't see red or green.
So in men, typically red and green colorblindness is pretty common, and that basically would be something that Andreas would probably be better at explaining.
Yeah, well, what color do they see then instead of red and green?
They have distorted, I mean, it's right. So it's the typical, the deficit is red and green because they have deficiency in the receptor of the eye that recognizes this particular color. So they either see green as gray or sort of a shade of gray, I would say. Sort of this, they just blank that out.
Right.
But it's not that they see green as an orange or green as another color.
It's totally different color.
Yeah.
So you should know that I am affected slightly by this phenomenon. And so there are certain colors of green that I see that appear gray. So I'm very, very careful about the greens that I pick.
Yeah.
I am, believe me, there are ways that I get around that by looking at that color through a different filter. Because if it's gray, it'll stay gray. But if I add another color to it, it won't stay gray. So that's just kind of a way of dealing with that.
Yeah.
But it's a fun kind of problem to look at.
Yeah, as a painter specifically.
Okay, I'll shut up for a minute.
Anyone else? Any questions for Carter? Otherwise, we conclude the final session of Tales from the Bridge House. Again, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Carter.
Sure.
Thank you, Carter. I enjoyed it.
Carter.
Thank
you, Carter. Great presentation.
And I will, again, I will send we will send, Jenny and I will send out a questionnaire about if we want to do this again next year. And I wish you all happy holidays.
Thank you.
Indeed.
Stay home.
Happy Turkey Day, everybody.
Stay home, right?
Stay home.
Wear a mask.
Jennifer, are you recording it? Jennifer,
Thank you, everyone.
What?
Okay.
are you recording it?
Yes, I am.
Okay, because I would like to watch it again. The theory of colors was fascinating.
Yeah.
I loved the whole presentation.
Yes, I actually started a Capes YouTube channel, and so all of our Tales from the Bridge House videos are going up there. Plus, I have the video from our KGW story about the fire up there.
We'll be famous.
Okay.
It's had three hits, you know.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carter, very much.
You're most welcome. All right. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.